don't see the little red live box up here, then that means I'm no longer live. Hello. Can everyone hear me? This is my first live. If you can, say hi to let me know that you can hear me and that you're here. This is what we're going to work on. Can anyone hear me? Can y'all hear me? Hi, Carmen. Thanks, Chelsea. Thank you so much. Okay, this is my first live, so I kind of have to bear with me. We got 6 people on. I think that's pretty good for a Saturday night. So this is what we wanted to show you tonight, is this fabric Dragonscale. There's also a mermaid version. You can see that. So instead of doing this version of Dragonscale, where you have to cut each individual piece of scale out of cardstock and place them or glue them. This one was used double stick tape. I found fabric at Joann that is Dragonscale. This fabric is in the cosplay section and is quite expensive. For 1 yard, it's 51 inches wide, is $30 plus tax. It almost never is on sale, but you can use your 50% off coupon because it's not excluded and it's almost never on sale. So, I don't know if you can see that. Pretty bright with my lights. And it has a backing on it. So I usually get about 1/3 of a yard or 12 inches. So it's not quite expensive. And I think I broke it down to like maybe $1 a cup. I mean, it really kind of worked out, even though it seemed expensive at the beginning. So, this is at Joann, and it's in the cosplay section. I stumbled onto it right before Thanksgiving, I believe, and then I kept looking back for it after I bought the original piece, and I couldn't find it. And you can find it on the website. I will include links later. And it said it was in stock, so I went several times and I never could put my hands on it, and I finally asked, and they had placed it underneath the sewing machines in a locked cage, because apparently it's just so expensive. People are stealing it. I don't know of any cosplay people who are thieves, but you know, maybe just the dollar amount on it. So you might have to ask them for it. And again, we'll put the link in the description later for this fabric. But this is at Joann. And they also comes in gold. Alright, let me check and see. Anybody say anything? Alright. Hi, Meg. So what I have discovered when I was making this one is that if you get alcohol or I'm guessing water on here, it will erase the silver. So you can actually paint these different colors. See if y'all can see that. Or you can just paint on top of the silver. Got too much light in here. So you can see that's a turquoise color. There's some purple. Does that help? So I'm guessing on this stuff, if you completely take it down to the black fabric with some rubbing alcohol, you could use this shimmer paint, this color shift paint, that only works on black colored items, which is what I used on this cup. So that could save you some time, and I'm not sure what all colors this comes in. I got this at Micas with the coupon, the 40% off coupon, but this is that color shift chameleon looking purpley teal color. Alright, so for this cup you're going to need a skinny. Unfortunately I haven't figured out a way to wrap this around any other shape, but it's some sort of skinny, and I like the Built brand that you buy at Walmart, because they're like thicker. They're more sturdy than the ones from Hog, but the ones from Hog I'm guessing would work. However, I have tried to put this one in my car cup holder and it barely fits because there's quite a bit of epoxy to cover the scales. So that's something to think about. The Built ones are skinnier to start, the Hog ones are skinnier to start with. So this is at Walmart. It's like $8 plus tax, and this one was great because it was already dragon colored, in my opinion. So I really liked starting with one that was already colored, because as you can see, I just put epoxy here and on the bottom, and I didn't have to decorate at all because it was already the perfect color. Okay, so when I made the mermaid version, I was able to go ahead and prep the entire cup top to bottom, and then I mixed some glitter, which I'll show y'all here in a little bit, and I coated the top and the bottom, so it wouldn't matter what color the original cup is, just as long as you can sand it. So this is the mermaid version. So we're going to cover this in today's tutorial. I've got several different phases of cups ready to go, and real quick I was wanting to show you, I had mentioned earlier in the week that instead of putting glitter on a cup, this is one of Carmen's awesome Game of Thrones fabrics, I put mica powder. And so I was going to see if y'all could see that instead of glitter. It really matched the colors better than any glitter that I had. So all I did was I took the electrical tape and I covered it around on top of the fabric after one layer of epoxy, and then I just mixed up some epoxy with some mica and put it there to form the lip. So that's another option instead of glitter or paint, because the paint that I had was just too white to go with her. And this was such a beautiful cup, it needed the perfect trim. And you could probably do that on the bottom, but I chose to cover it. But I love this cup. Then y'all were talking about, is this Paw Patrol? I was going to show you. Thank you, Carmen, for the awesome fabrics. And then I did this lip with alcohol ink. The same method. I taped off right here where I wanted the, where I didn't want the alcohol ink to go. And then I covered the cup with epoxy and alcohol ink mixture. And I pulled the tape after it spun for about maybe an hour and a half. I let it get pretty thick because I didn't want it to run down over my design. Okay. So get some of this stuff out of my way. So just a quick recap, we're going to be putting this fabric onto a 20-ounce tumbler tonight. And then we'll paint it and see how that goes. And I don't know if I said, my name's Mona. I'm from Arkansas, so if you hear the accent, I'm a Southern girl. And hi. Alright, so we have cups in various stages. I have one that already has the fabric applied, but it's not painted yet. So we'll get to that one in just a little bit. I have one with 1 layer of epoxy on it, so this one's ready for glitter, so you don't have to watch me mixing epoxy tonight. I have one that is ready to be trimmed. So since this one was the similar shape to a skinny, I was able to wrap the fabric around it. And we'll get to see the awesome cup edging tool in action on one of these. I was amazed when it cut this thick fabric. Way to go. So to start with, we're going to use a prepped, just rough the surface up on this one. And to get the fabric to adhere, we're going to use some E6000. So I found this brand at Joann because they were out of the regular brand, but this one actually looks like it might do better because it's a quick hold. Has anyone tried the quick hold yet? This one might seem like it's going to work better. When I did the real Dragonscale, I tried the Mod Podge method, but it just was not going to hold that little cardstock scale on the cup. I'm not sure how people do it. I give you kudos if you have made a real Dragonscale cup with Mod Podge. And I cheated and used the double stick tape. So I guess you could use double stick tape on this. I don't know if I would recommend it. I feel like something stronger would be better. So I was able to use a coupon for this at Joann. My Micas in Arkansas, all of the adhesive and glue sticks and glue guns are considered everyday value, so we cannot use the coupons. Alright. Any questions so far? I don't know if I'm seeing them or if y'all just aren't commenting. I've got my iPad going over here too so I can try to see. Okay, so I'm going to turn you down. I'm trying to see comments over here if possible. And if I don't see your comment, we will try to answer them later. Okay. Let's see. So we're going to work on cutting our fabric, and I'm going to point you down. So I have some fabric here that I've used already. Now the thing about this is these cups, you know, are not completely straight up and down. They have that cone. So it's best to make sure that that line is straight. See, that one's not even straight. It's pretty straight. So you want to make sure that your scales don't get crooked. You wouldn't want them crooked on your cup. So you want to line them up. And what I did originally was I took a piece of fabric and I wrapped it around the cup to get a good measurement. And then I believe I drew a template. But I'm not going to use that tonight. We're going to just eyeball this. This material cuts fairly easily. Just enough, just barely. I'm going to cut this little seam off here. So gluing this fabric onto the cup does take several hours, but they're in stages. I don't know if anyone's ever made cake pops, but cake pops are stages and you go back to them. You're not making cake pops for an entire 5 hours, but it takes a 5-hour period to make a whole batch of cake pops. So this is kind of the similar. It takes some time, but you're not working on it the full time. Unlike the individual scales where you're sitting there gluing them on for quite a while. Alright. So we're wrapping this around, and if you are good enough to get that same cut on the first try, you know, you can, but what I do is I glue the whole thing on little by little, and I come back and then I do another section, and then I do another section until it's all the way around. So it could take me an entire day to get this completely glued. It's possible if you wanted to put the glue on and glue it all on at one time, you can, and maybe put a zip tie around it or a big bread tie, something to hold it around the cup. I just do it little by little, and I set it on a little decal holder that my husband built for me. Make sure the scales are going the correct way. I have these going down. I think that's the right scale etiquette is to have them going down. This piece is right, just right amount right there. So you see how that is? So as you glue, you'll keep that tight. So you see the first time I did it, the seam was kind of going crooked because of the way the fabric goes crooked around this tapered cup. The second time I was able to get it a little bit straighter, but you're going to have that cut, and it's that's the most challenging part, and I use the little Cricut scissors to do the seam, and we're going to do that here in just a second. These little pointy scissors are great. I'm told embroidery scissors are just as pointy, but I haven't spent money on that yet because my coupons are always being used for glue or expensive fabric. So I would take my E6000 and begin to glue this on. Let's see if y'all can, I mean, it's kind of self-explanatory. This is the new E6000 that I haven't used before. So I would just take this, y'all can see that, and you can glue on the cup too if you wanted. And if anybody's wondering, you know, this glue is not like food safe or whatever, but it's sealed all the way in, the epoxy. So, and they're using E6000 on the zippers, so I feel like it's okay. And these cups, along with the real Dragonscale, the cardstock ones, you know, these are delicate cups. I mean, there's just double stick tape underneath that, which I'm sure is not very food safe either. But, so these aren't meant to be, you know, tossed around a construction site or anything. So I feel like if you use enough of this, then, you know, it's going to stay long enough to get that epoxy on, and hopefully it will be very well taken care of. So if you're just joining, we're working on this fabric Dragonscale cup. Instead of doing the individual cardstock pieces that are cut with your Cricut, this fabric is available at Joann. And we're wrapping it around a skinny tumbler. And here in just a minute, we're going to see how we put some color shift paint on it and turn it into a mermaid tumbler. So I have put some E6000 down on this fabric and have just mashed it to get it started. Ooh, this stuff does not smell very well. Whew. Okay, and so what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this and I'm going to let it sit right on that pool noodle part so that gravity matches that glue so it stays. So I'll go do other tumblers or walk the dog or whatever and come back in an hour or so and glue a little bit more. I will glue the next part, and then in an hour or so glue the next part and the next part. So you're not spending like 2 hours gluing 9,000 individual pieces on here. You're just spending a few minutes at a time on here, and if anybody wants to try it, would love to know. If you do the whole thing at one time and maybe put some zip ties or something around it, that might work too. So I just leave it sitting here mashed up. You might be able to take some towels and roll them up and make a little shift holder if you don't have one of these decal. Not even sure what they're called, but my husband made this for me. He might make you some if you want to message us, but it's really helpful, especially on something like this. So you can see it's just sitting here with the glue, and we're letting gravity hold that glue onto the cup. So once it gets completely glued around, what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my scissors and I'm going to carefully cut along this edge to get it to meet perfectly. So that's the most challenging part of this tumbler in my opinion. And you can also trim off the edges. That would help if you did that first. So I have a cup here that I prepped last week, and it is in that stage. It is ready to have the seam cut. So I'm going to put this one to the side, and I'll come back and work on it at a later time. So this was just a little kid cup or low ball or skinny. I think this is an Arctic cup. This is metal. It's painted black by the company. So I did this, and you can see like I'm pulling, and that E6000 is holding really well in my opinion. But I glued right up to where I could see that seam, if you can see that. So I'm going to take my scissors and I'm going to cut this right up that seam, and I'm going to do my best to get it to match completely up without an overlap. So this might take you some time, and then what we're going to do is we're going to take the cup edging tool. It has a brand new blade, and it's actually going to cut any extra down here so that all of that is even for me as well. Okay, let's see if I can do this. I know it's not very close to you guys. See how well y'all can see that. So the scissors kind of just fall in the channel because this fabric is so thick that you can kind of like let the scissors follow the fabric. So I did a tiny little cut, and as you can see, I actually didn't cut enough, but it's better to not cut enough than to cut too much right now. So I showed this to one of my friends. He came over, we were showing him all of our tumblers, and he did not like the fact that this was this seam was crooked. You know, way to be a Debbie Downer, right? So he mentioned that maybe I could put like a sword over it to go with the Mother of Dragons, Game of Thrones type theme. And I was like, well, that's a great idea, but this crooked really doesn't bother me. It would bother me more if the scales were crooked than to have this seam crooked. But, you know, if you were going to put someone's name on it, then that might be a great place to kind of hide the crooked seam. It just was a challenge for me to get everything straight, so that was just one of the sacrifices. So again, I'm cutting the seam, and I'm just letting my scissors follow the thick of the fabric to try to get that seam as close to matching up with the other piece as I can. And if anyone has any better ideas, I am open to hear them. I'm going to flip it around. Maybe I can see that a little bit better from this angle. Okay, so you can see that it's got a gap. Let's see if y'all can see that. It's the tiniest little gap. And I guess if you wanted to call it that a day and go ahead and epoxy it, you could. But this stuff is so thick it takes several layers of epoxy, so that's just going to get in your way. You really want that to be pretty flush with the other side of the fabric. So you can keep working at it little by little to get it to lay flush. Let's see if I can get a little piece to lay flush. That tiny little part is pretty flush. So I would just work my way up all the way and try to get that to be as flush as possible. And that way there's not a big hiccup there where the epoxy is going to cover. So now to get the top part perfectly, because you see how the fabric was has to go crooked because these cups aren't completely straight up and down. I just did a shot in the dark and used Corey's cup edging tool, and it worked. I couldn't believe it because this is so thick, but it cut like butter. So let's see if we can, if y'all can see this. So I did before the live, I set this to the height that I wanted it. And guys, if you don't have one of these, you really need to get it. So this part was pretty much already at the razor line. So as I go around, it's going to trim all of it to that upper height. And I was just completely in utter happy shock that we could use this awesome tool on something this thick. Alright, so sorry I can't hold it up higher. Let's see if it works again. This is a brand new blade. You always want to get a fairly new blade when you're doing this stuff. Alright, cross your fingers. So you can see this is how much pulling it would take to pull that E6000 off. And because it's the edge, I tried not to put as much E6000 on it because I knew I was going to cut it. So, thank you, Corey, for having an easy way to get a nice clean edge on here. So, I would edge the top and the bottom and get this seam completely flush with the other side of the fabric. And then I would paint it if I'm going to do a mermaid version, or clean this up with some rubbing alcohol and get that extra E6000 that's just hanging down. I would get that off and start painting it for the mermaid. Or if this is going to be just the plain gunmetal one, like this one, it's ready for epoxy. I might rub this down here in the rim with some rubbing alcohol, but this is ready for epoxy. Now this one probably has about 5 or 6 coats of epoxy. Several of the scales needed some extra epoxy to cover, and then I used HTV, glitter HTV, on this design. And I'd hoped it just needed one layer. However, there was a couple of tiny little spots that did not get covered in the original, the top coat for the HTV, so it did get an additional coat. I feel like if I had watched it better, I may have been able to get it all in one coat. So this is quite thick, but in honesty, this is pretty thick too. So I don't feel like you're trading anything. And I really like the look of this. It's super deep. The scales are. And then when I made the mermaid version, I was just completely in love. So I'm going to put this one to the side, and I'll finish up later. And hopefully I'll post it to my page when it's done. So this would be for a little dragon, a baby dragon, or maybe some coffee. And so this is what we're going to move to now. So this is the same exact thing. We have cut the fabric. We have cut the seam on the fabric. We've cut the edges around the bottom and the top. It was used E6000, little by little, glued piece by piece. And so what I did was I put one layer of epoxy on it to seal that fabric to the cup. That's how I do all my fabrics, is I put a layer of epoxy, and then after that initial layer, that's when I decorate the rims. I feel like that makes sure that the fabric is completely sealed inside the cup. When I did a glitter cup, when I did the glitter on the same level layer as the fabric, I just felt like it was interfering with the epoxy actually touching the rim. But that was just me and my fear of, because I was making a personal cup. This is my personal cup. So I just wanted to make sure that there wasn't anything getting in under that fabric. So that's gold leaf, by the way, if y'all haven't seen gold leaf on a cup. That's gold leaf. I like Art Deco stuff, so this is my gilded cup. And if y'all are commenting, I can't see it. I'm so sorry. We'll have to figure that out at another time. Okay, so to paint this, we use different products. Have y'all seen this stuff? I'm told Walmart has it. My Walmart doesn't, because we're in Arkansas and we aren't as fun as y'all states are. So I believe I got this. I got this at Hobby Lobby, probably on different visits. I used the coupon, so instead of it being $9, it was more of like 5-ish, 6-ish, whatever math is. I tried this one on some of these, and it just was a little bit too streaky. So I didn't make a full one with that. I might try that one. It's pretty, but it was still really streaky. So the ones that I have made, I have used this color. It's color shifting. It says acrylic folk art. I don't think these have any color. They're just whatever the lid is. Oh, this does say Blue Flash. 5191 Blue Flash. We'll put a link to that in the comments or the description of this video. So I just take a paintbrush and I paint this. So now the trick that I found with this was that we're going to put this away because it's sharp. Is that you need to rub the paint off after you paint it. We're almost like staining the silver with the color shift paint. If you don't rub it off, it's going to get all cakey and kind of mess up the look of your scales, in my opinion. So then after we paint this, to get this iridescent look in here, can y'all see that? There's like some pink scales that are filled in. We're going to use some mica. And I put my mica in some super gloss Mod Podge and filled in the scales with this. But any other way that you guys use mica would probably work just the same. So let's try some of this color shift paint. on here so we can see what it is. Just trying to see if there's any. Hey! We got some comments. Alright, let's see. Where can I get the material? Sorry it took a while to show up. This material is at Joann. It's available by the yard, and it's 51 inches wide, so you can get several cups out of 1/3 of a yard. That's how I buy it. It is $30 a yard. It's probably some of the most expensive that they have there. It's in the cosplay section. They've actually started to lock mine up in this cage underneath the sewing machines that are for sale. But the good news is, because it's never on sale, you can use the 40, 50, even 60% off coupons when you get them at Joann on this fabric. And I have a link ready to put in the description. You can buy 2 yards online and pick them up in the store. There's a minimum of 2 yards. I wouldn't buy 2 yards of this at one time. But, you know, you can see the product, and I think it will tell you if they have it in the store by looking at their online website, Joann. So let's see if I could see anything else. Maybe. Yep, cup edging tool. Thanks, Meg, for saying Joann. Yes, you can use the coupon. And Meg linked the cup edging tool from Corey and Wicked Shimmer Supplies. Yeah, maybe we can try to figure out if someone can just sell bits and pieces of this fabric. You know, that would be a great idea. I've got quite a bit. I'm hoping that the Game of Thrones surge will pick up. I've had several orders for this cup here, just as it was. No personalization. I want to keep one for myself. So, but yeah, if you don't want to have to make a trip to Joann and then use your coupon on this, you know, but I think I figured it out, and I feel like it was only like $1 a cup, which is what we're spending on some of these other fabrics. At the end of the day, the cost for this really wasn't that much. Okay, so sorry it took me a while to see your comments, guys. So we're gonna put this paint on the cup, and honestly, I don't really feel like it takes a long time to make one of these. I feel like it's just one of those ones that you kind of play with for a little bit and put it to the side, go do other things, and you come back and you kind of work on it. I know when I was doing this little one, trying to get it ready for this live, I would every night I would just come and glue a little bit more and a little bit more. So if you had like 3 or 4 going at one time, you know, this really wouldn't be taking up a lot of your time. So again, I got this Color Shift paint at Hobby Lobby. I'm told Walmart has it. Michael's probably has it too. And so I just apply it in sections to this fabric. So I don't know if y'all can see it because it's so shiny. Let me see if I can turn this light off. Any better. So this is really caked up when you apply it. So that's why I get a paper towel and I just smear it off, and it almost stains. It almost stains the silver into the color that you want. So that's something that you'll have to play around with, and what is your level that you want to paint. And there is a yellow thought I had it here. There's a yellow version of this color shift paint. And I don't know if y'all can see. So if you're making like several that are kind of like a piece, like several different dragon eggs, it did stain this yellow. And so I think this one here in the middle is what we're doing right now. So you could maybe even rainbow, like I did this piece here. The whole cup. It's just a thought. I haven't gotten that adventurous. So I'm going to paint, if I'm making the mermaid version, I'm no longer doing dragons, I'm now doing mermaid. So I'm going to wipe that extra off so that it just doesn't cake up in those scales. This is super iridescent. It's picking up every piece of light. But they're now kind of tinted. I think you can see it there. They're tinted purple now. So I would do the whole cup. It doesn't really take that long. And because you're wiping it off, it's kind of drying as you're wiping. Now, I'm also thinking that if you wanted to, it might take forever. I got rubbing alcohol on this, and it took all the silver off, and it left that black, similar to kind of what's on the back. And I'm thinking if you were able to clean all that silver off, then you could take this color shifting spray paint that I got at Michael's and just spray this. So then it turns into this color. I haven't tried that one yet. Maybe I'll try it with this little one, and I'll let y'all know. But this is now tinted purple, which is a great look for a mermaid cup. And of course, there's like tons of different ways that you can color this. You don't have to use this color shift paint. This is just what I've done so far. We'd love to see what you come up with. Just gonna wipe that off. So I would do the whole cup to save time because I don't like super long lives. I'm not going to do the whole cup, but I don't know if y'all can see where there's paint and where there's not paint. So making this a mermaid is a whole different layer of work to make this mermaid versus just leaving it gray already and just calling it a dragon. Now they do have gold Dragonscale. Instead of it being silver shimmer, it's gold shimmer. So if you want one of a gold dragon, you just buy the gold Dragonscale. Okay, so I'm not going to paint the rest of this one right now. To fill in the scales, to make that 3D kind of look, some of these are just randomly filled in. I used mica, and I got these at Michael's. It was a big kit. There was a kit 1 and 2. I don't know which kit this is part of. This one's called Lavender 688, so it's in a big kit. I was able to use the coupons on those kits, so instead of it being $30, it was $15. One of these days I'm going to pick Chameleon from some of the other websites, but when I go to look, I never can figure out which color I want. So we just use these for now because I'm so indecisive. So this is a color shifting pearlescent. I'm not quite sure if it's real color shifting, but it worked to make these fill in. So you know, you could use different colors. You don't have to do what I did. And so how I did it, instead of mixing it in epoxy, because this is one of the ones where you're going to do a little bit, let it dry, and then turn it, and then do a little bit more, I guess. I don't think I did it all at one time. Maybe I did so it wouldn't melt. wouldn't harden. This is Super Gloss Mod Podge. I'm not sure how well the other colors of Mod Podge will work, but I didn't want to mix it in epoxy and use it, so I just tried this and it seemed to work just fine. So I put some in a little medicine cup. You don't need a whole lot. This is probably way too much. And then I just take the powder and I color, the mica powder, and I color this. I just use a tiny little scoop. See if that's going to be enough. I have a small paintbrush. I think I got these at Walmart. It's actually more purple, I think, than the one I picked the other day. So yeah, that one little scoop was more than enough. So this is going to sit right inside of that mermaid scale. I'm just going to kind of like fill the scale itself up with this. And that's what kind of makes it look full and the 3D underneath the epoxy. So let's see if I can do this so y'all can see it. So just dipped it in there. And these scales are deep to the touch. And I'm sorry, my dog is missing me. I put them up and she's whining, so if you hear her. These are like, you can feel the scale. So these are deep. So I'm just filling in, kind of letting it pull inside that. I'm not trying to cover the edge of the scale because I want it to keep that shiny part in between each scale. So again, I got this fabric at Joann, and I'm able to use the coupon. So I just randomly picked spots to do. You could do the whole cup if you wanted. You could maybe do this to start with without doing the color shift over it. You know, just try out different things. So once this is dry, I put a whole layer of epoxy all the way up covering the edge. So I'm sealing the whole piece of fabric in the epoxy. So then I glittered up here to cover that because I did not like just that raw edge there. So I have one here that's already epoxied. I only needed like 20 cups for this live. So I don't know if you guys can see that epoxy edge. I taped off just the tiniest sliver so that I knew that this fabric was coated completely and sealed to this cup. And the same thing on the bottom. So this is actually not covered in epoxy, but it will be. I thought I had a Mod Podge brush. I'll put that down. I was looking for my Mod Podge brush. Let me go grab one real fast. Sorry, guys. Thought I had everything, but apparently forgot my Mod Podge brush. So to keep the glitter from straying on top of the epoxied fabric, I take, I just stirred up the dogs going in there. I'm sorry, guys. So I take this electrical tape. They never bark like this. And I just wrap it around the cup to kind of make where I want that to be masked. So the edge will be completely concealed by the glitter. And if you want to take like a magic marker and do that little trick where you put it on 2 popsicle sticks and draw your line, you can. I've tried that and I don't successfully cover the line, so I stopped doing that. So I'm going to just make sure that these 2 pieces of tape meet and don't have a big lip. And so now I've protected the rest of my cup from the line that I'm about to make with glitter. So because this is a dark cup and my glitter is a lighter color glitter, it takes a couple of coats to get it completely covered. But again, this doesn't take very long, so I feel like you can do this and then set it to the side. Yeah, I'm really liking the mica powders. I just really started to play with them. This past week I did my first marble. It was a lot easier than I thought it was going to be. So I didn't have any good mermaid colors that went with this color scheme, so I just used my cheap craft glitter. Don't hate me. But what I did, instead of putting just straight craft purple and straight craft pink on the cap, which I guess you could if you wanted to, I mixed mine and I just made this mermaid color. I feel like this is a good mermaid color. It's like a little bit of all 3. These are little KFC takeout mashed potato bowls that I use for my random glitter. So this is what I use when I Mod Podge. So since now I have some new mermaid stuff in, I might try tweaking this color to match the pretty stuff. So I'm sure you guys all know how to Mod Podge. I use the hard coat, the purple. And I don't have a newspaper to catch. It's about to make a big mess. So I'm not going to do this whole thing just to show you guys because we're about finished. So we take this. I think my brush got hard sitting here. So we take this and cover the whole edge, just like you do any of your other fabric tumblers. And I'm making sure to cross that epoxy line really well. And then I take my glitter, whatever I've made a mixture, and I sprinkle it on. And this is how I do all of my other cups to protect where I don't want the glitter. So I would do this all the way around, and I do it on the bottom. And I would might have a football on it, I'm not sure. I'd set it on some sort of drying rack so it doesn't, you know, get touched. But so because it's so thin, I would do 2 coats. I'd come back in a half hour whenever and do the second coat. And so this is what it looks like after 2 coats of glitter, and I've pulled the tape. But and I think this might have 1 coat of epoxy on it. So technically this fabric has 2 coats of epoxy. So I can barely feel that seam. Like right there is a tiny little part sticking up. So you can see how 3 coats or more would be needed on this cup. But all of this is completely covered in epoxy. You can't hear any of the scales like you can on the uncovered. So this would be when I would put a decal on it. I was able to use HTV on this because it cuts smaller. I really like the HTV. And then I would cover it in more epoxy and clean up that lip. So I think that is how to do one of these. I don't know how long it took me to just describe it to you guys, but I made this one before I made the individual cardstock one, and I really feel like this one with how to use double stick tape, and I just kind of question it. This one's for me, so I like this one. I don't know if it's the perfectness of these scales or the depth that these have, because they kind of scoop in. I just really like these, and with a better color on it, it might just completely sing like a siren. But this is fabric mermaid Dragonscales. So did we have any other questions? See if I can get it to show up. I haven't tried Art Alchemy. Is that like a brand? Or is that what you used the other night on that copper looking one, Meg? That looks so awesome. Thanks, Meg. I have a couple of master's degree in education, so I made like full lesson plans for this tutorial, so I wouldn't miss anything, hopefully, other than the Mod Podge brush. And so if you guys need anything with this, I'm gonna play around with more colors and things. So if y'all have any questions, feel free to ask. But I haven't seen this anywhere. I'm a huge Dragon and Mermaid fan, and believe me, I go and look. And I haven't seen anyone else do this, and it was an accident that I found this fabric at Joann. And they actually have some that looks like almost like the leather that a knight would wear, and it has kind of little, it's like leather-like, but it's got little random spots that are raised, like, not a bullet, I'm trying to think, not quite a grommet, I don't know. So you might be able to get that and make like a knight's cup to give to someone who wanted to like be Jaime Lannister, or you know, have a drink and know things, because it looks more like a knight's, the leather that a knight would have under his chainmail. So that's also in the cosplay section too. There's some carbon fiber looking fabric that looks really cool, and I'm not sure how well it would look on here, but I really want to try it, and I might let y'all know if I do. But I love fabric, and I love Carmen and Meg, and them sending us, being able to buy this fun fabric, because my Joann just does not have fun stuff. Other than this, it had this. So, see if there's any other questions. And feel free to ask questions in the replay. I'll do my best to see if it notifies me. This is my first live, so let's see if I can turn the phone back up. This is my first live, so I'm not really sure how it pings me afterwards, but feel free to send me a message. And I guess that's all. Thank you for joining me on a Saturday night. I appreciate it. Keep watching the group and supporting Meg and Carmen. They are awesome. And I will see you later. Thanks. Bye.